There is significant power in finding ways to stand out. There is significant power in finding ways to stand out. And what people don't always realize is that communication is the transfer of information. That's it. It's not always the words you say, it's simply the transfer of information. And that transfer of information happens through your five senses: sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. Through those five senses, you transfer information. Therefore, through those five senses, you have the ability to communicate. And so I came across this clip, and this is a reaction video to a clip that was from the Breakfast Club with David Banner. But he talked about wearing cologne and the impact of wearing cologne and how memorable smell is as it pertains to allowing him to stand out. And it's a very powerful clip. And it actually brings me to something I heard a while back. It's a guy who has a large platform. He's a former pastor named Tim Ross. And Tim Ross talked about how smell has an influence on especially women who he communicated with. And so he even said that when he was in the pulpit pastoring, he did not wear cologne. One of his responses was, he spoke really well. He said, yo, I'm a nice looking guy. I don't need to add something else which could potentially influence, women, when I'm in their presence. So he said he didn't wear cologne when he was in those spaces because he didn't want to be that level of distraction for some of the women that he was pastoring. And it's fascinating. But then I hear that. And then when I play this clip from David Banner about, his how he expresses himself with cologne, it'll the dots will connect. So the power of smell, but also not forgetting the fact that communication is simply the transfer of information, and you transfer information through your five senses. I'm gonna play this clip, and then we'll chat about it in a second.
So I put cologne here, put cologne here, I put cologne here and here, so that when somebody hugs me, that it can go, they put their nose right there.
Yeah, smell it.
You know what I'm saying? When I shake somebody's hand, I learned this when I was at Southern in business class, that everybody has a 4.0. So at the time, that's when they put resumes on paper. Mm-hmm. Sometimes the quality of the paper is the difference between you getting that job or not. Mm-hmm. I remember my ex-girlfriend told me, she said, you know why I called you back? I said, why? She said, because I smelt your black ass for the rest of the night.
So listen here. David Banner literally confirmed what I was just saying, the power of smell. So we communicate through all our five senses. A lot of times we so focus on the words that we don't forget about how we present, what we smell like, right? We don't think about that, but there's so much power in that. And when you think about being memorable, when I'm, coaching individuals with communication, one of the things we talk about is the fact that if you want to be memorable, one of the things that you should strive to do is to tap into more than one of the senses. The more senses you touch, you tap into touch, taste, smell, sight, sound. The more senses that you tap into, the more memorable you will become. Because like David Banner said, his ex said she came back because she smelled him. Like that memory connected the dots for her, not just on some of the other things, but that was something that was another sense that he was able to tap into. And so it's a powerful thing, but he also emphasized the notion of standing out. What is it that you bring to the table that allows you to differentiate yourself from someone else? See, a lot of us are in kind of copy and paste mode, right? We all have heard the statement, success leaves clues. And that's cool. You learn from success. There are breadcrumbs to success, meaning people who have had success doing certain things. There are breadcrumbs or clues that were left that we should pick up on. But we also need to refrain from simply copying and pasting what someone else does, because that was their pathway to success. That was for them. You can learn from them, but you can never be them. Therefore, you have to find your pathway that differentiates you from someone else. There is a unique thing, a unique value proposition that you bring to the table that you have to deploy. That is where you can then be memorable in whatever it is you do. So the example of David Banner utilizing, his smell, utilizing the colognes and the combination of fragrances that he uses to allow him to be memorable in various settings, that works for him. And that also is an indicator that tapping into the five senses works as it pertains to formulating memories, as it pertains to you creating some type of effect that has a long lasting benefit even after you leave the room, right? And also you create an indicator. So the next time someone comes across that smell that you were wearing, whether you were there or not, who are they going to think of? They're going to think of you. And again, this is a catch-22, right? Because as a married man like myself, I want to smell good. I want to look good. I want to, present myself well because I represent myself and my family. I represent my wife, my kids, and everybody. But I also have to be very mindful of the fact that there are things that are triggering to other people. I heard the good brother Jason Wilson talk about, navigating life as a married man. One of the things that he mentioned was, he said, you can be attractive, but as a married man, you should never be available. You can be attractive, but you should never be available. And there are things that we can do. There are ways that we can carry ourselves as married men. Now, I know David Banner's not married, so he's totally different. But for me and for other brothers that are out there that are married, there are ways that we need to operate in which we can be attractive. We can be well put together. We can, bring it, right? But we have to make sure that we also don't communicate the fact that we are available, because we're not. That's when mixed messages get portrayed. And when you start thinking about communication and you think about communicating effectively, one way to not be effective in your communication is to send mixed signals. If you are not available, do not present yourself as if you are available and ready to mingle, because that sends a mixed message. Therefore, your communication is not going to be effective. So again, we have to be mindful of that. And it's not that you have bad intentions. It's not that you're trying to draw the attention of women, as a married dude, if you present yourself in a certain way, but you have to be mindful of what you do and how that does position yourself in a certain way, right? Because again, if I'm not trying to make myself available, I don't want to present myself as if I'm available. So therefore, I might be very conscious of, wearing certain smells if I'm not going somewhere with my wife, right? Or if I'm not going somewhere in a particular setting, because I don't want to position myself to create, a level of, not arousal, but a level of appeal to those that I don't want to be appealing to, right? Because again, I'm married. But it speaks to what David Banner was talking about when it comes to smell, and how smell can be one of those gateways that could, open up, a level of interest, because that's something that's memorable. And remember, communication is nothing but the transfer of information, and we do so across all of our five senses, and smells just one of them. And again, we have to be mindful of the smells we bring, but also be mindful of the impact that those smells will have. And it's kind of funny, I didn't use this part of the clip, but another part of the clip, David Banner's he's in the studio, and one of the ladies in the studio was kind of getting hot and bothered by the smell. Right? Like, she was really getting attracted to the smell, and that really led to an exchange in there, which was quite interesting. But it kind of proves my point that we have to be mindful of how we operate. And again, as a married guy, we can be attractive without making ourselves available. And we have to make sure we understand what things that we do give the perception or the portrayal that we are available, because we're not. And we don't want them problems, right? But again, it's pretty interesting, right? So yeah, some interesting stuff. Again, pretty neat. What are your thoughts on this? What are your thoughts on it? As always, make sure to subscribe. Go be the quarterback of your mindset. Control how you operate, because again, there are so many forces out there looking to garner control over your mindset, because everyone who knows things understands that your actions follow your mindset. So be the quarterback of your mindset. As always, y'all be blessed, well, and wise, and I'll holla at you. Peace.